So I've officially had my freeze dryer for a little over 48 hours and I am finally ready to taste test my first batch of treats. I had to let the freeze dryer sit for 24 hours after delivery for any refrigerant to settle, and then my first batch had to be a batch of just plain bread, which I would then throw away because it would absorb any of the factory chemical new car smell is what they refer to it as. So once it sat for 24 hours, I ran my bread batch, threw that away, and I processed a batch of candy. So let me show you what I got. I don't know if I've ever actually had freeze-dried candy before. I have had ice cream, and I've seen a lot of freeze-dried candy, so I knew Skittles did really well. But I reached out to my coworker. Her daughter is so excited for me to have this freeze dryer and experiment with different candies. So thank you, Georgia, for your recommendations on what candy I should freeze dry. So I said, other than Skittles, what should I process? She recommended Sour Straps, which are these little rainbow, I think these are called Sour Belts I got at the bulk barn. Reese's Pieces, saltwater taffy, sour gummy worms. So I picked up all of those, and then I also seen that Starburst does really well, Jolly Ranchers, and then we just picked up a few of our favorite candies. We got some Fuzzy Peaches, watermelon, and Bigfoot. So when I was doing the bread batch, when I was researching what does well in the freeze dryer, I don't think peanut butter is supposed to freeze dry very well because it's very high fat, oily. And I don't think chocolate really does that well either. So Georgia recommended I try Reese's Pieces, but I didn't want to waste this whole jar of Reese's Pieces if it wasn't going to work. So what I did was took 3 of them and put it in with my bread batch, and I was just going to throw it away and see how it turned out. And I'm really glad that I did that because what ended up happening, I should have kept them to show you, but the candy busted, just like, I guess, just like the Skittles. See how the candy coating is busted? Well, the inside of this candy coating is like a peanut butter filling, and so it just kind of got all melty and liquidy. So when I took it out of the freeze dryer, it was liquidy. It wasn't dry. Maybe there is another setting I should have used to process these Reese's Pieces. I'll have to ask Georgia if she's seen other people do these before, and if so, I will give it another try. So I'm glad I gave that one a test. So I did that, and then I threw away my bread batch. And then I loaded her with candy. So some of them were successes, some of them I would call fails. And I guess we'll just get into taste testing and I'll talk about it. Skittles was the one that I'm the most excited to try because that was one of my favorite candies growing up, and I know that it freeze dries really well. However, when I went to the bulk barn, they did not have the original Skittles. They had 3 flavors, so I got all 3 flavors, and I don't remember exactly what they were other than sour Skittles. I think there was like tropical and mixed berry maybe. Those are the 3. So I'm gonna try all 3 of them. They busted, which is what's supposed to happen. I don't traditionally like sour Skittles, but they are so good freeze dried. I'm definitely gonna buy those again. I think these are the berry. Yeah, I'm gonna do so many Skittles. These are so good. This must be the tropical flavor. So good, 10 out of 10. Definitely gonna do Skittles again. Another one that I seen did really well is Starburst. And I thought I was being really smart by buying this package because they are unwrapped. But I didn't realize that these are a totally different texture than the Starburst that come wrapped. And I think those Starbursts that come wrapped expand really big, so you have to actually chop them up. So I tried to take a shortcut by getting these mini ones so I didn't have to unwrap or cut them, but next time I'll just get the original Starburst because I think they're a lot different texture, so I think they'll freeze dry different. So when I processed these, I initially thought it was going to be a fail because this is what they look like out of the package. And this is what they look like freeze dried. Here, I'll put them side by side. They don't really look like they changed all that much. So I didn't think that it worked. But let me give it a taste test. The unfreeze dried version is just like really, really chewy. I guess like just like a normal Starburst. And this is the freeze-dried one. Very crunchy, but not too hard to bite down on. And then it's not like that gooey, chewy Starburst that like gets stuck in your teeth and gives you cavities. It's a bit drier, so it's easier to eat. These are really good. I'm excited to get feedback from kids. So Georgia, let me know what you think of these, if I should do these again. But I definitely want to try the original Starburst because I think they expand like crazy. Speaking of expanding like crazy, I did the sour gummy worms, and I am so glad that I spaced them out nicely. Actually, I'm just going to hold this up to show you what happened. These are all the gummy worms. In hindsight, I wish that I had cut them ahead of time. Like, they're just a traditional size gummy worm, like not super long. But I was able to either break a piece off, or maybe this piece was already broken. I even find this big because you can't just like throw it in your mouth. It kind of reminds me of like a big Cheeto. So next time I will cut these very, very small. Yeah, look at these ones. I tried to pick a couple for me to taste test, but I even wish these were smaller. I don't even know how to describe what this is like. I probably shouldn't talk and chew and inhale sour candy at the same time. It's kind of like cotton candy where you eat the candy and like the moisture in your mouth just makes it dissolve, but it's sour and like crunchy at the same time. It's unlike anything I've ever had before, I think. But I think I'll definitely do these again. I wonder how normal gummy worms would do, because I do find these very sour. And I have seen people do gummy bears, but I think they're pretty tricky. You have to get the right kind. So I'll definitely do these again. I'll just cut them up a lot smaller. Let me show you a couple of fails. So these aren't candies that I've seen as being successful online. These are just candies that we really like and wanted to experiment with. The Bigfoot, Fuzzy Peach, and Watermelon. This just got really hard. Same with, well, actually, I haven't taste tested these yet. I can just tell by looking at them, and I got Jeff to taste test them for me. And that was what he said. It just got harder and chewier, and they're better not freeze-dried. Oh my gosh. Yeah, these are really hard. They still taste the same. They're just so hard to eat. And the watermelon. This actually didn't change very much. Okay, I think the only thing left that I was able to process in this batch is these sour belts or sour straps. So they're like, actually they were probably this long, and I ended up cutting them into more manageable size pieces, and they're very flexible. So I put them in like this, and then when they came out, they were still kind of bendy, and the trays were warm and the candy was pretty warm, which surprised me. And I was really excited to try these because I've seen a lot of success online with them. So I took a bite immediately when it came out of the freeze dryer, and I couldn't even chew it. It was so hard, and not like a crunchy way, like hard and chewy, and just kind of got gummed up in my mouth. So I was really disappointed because I thought those were going to be a huge success. Well, then I packed up all the candy and put on my next batch and got everything ready for this taste test. And it's a totally different texture than when it came out. I think I just was not patient enough in letting it sit and harden, because these are delicious. They're very crunchy and easy to eat now. I'm hoping that this is how they're supposed to turn out. You really wouldn't tell the difference just looking at them. They didn't change in size or anything. Like, you can't even tell which one is freeze-dried and which one is not until I bend this. So I'm excited to get George's feedback on this to see if this is what she expected the texture to be like, or if it should have done something else. Maybe I should have bought the sour straps and I bought the sour belts. They look the same to me, but maybe there is a difference. So that's all that I was able to get in my first batch. But I'm really excited to do my next one because I know these two candies do really well, just from my research online, are Jolly Ranchers and saltwater taffy. I didn't want to go through the effort into like unpackaging all of these, and the saltwater taffy expands like 4 times, I think. So what people recommend is cutting these into fourths. And so it just would have been really tedious for me to do all that, and I was able to fill all my trays without these. So that'll be my next project, is tackling all of these. And then the Jolly Ranchers, I think, also expand quite a bit, and people recommend cutting them in half. But these are so hard. Like, I think what people do is melt them in their oven slightly and then cut them in half. So I'm gonna have to do more research on the best way to tackle these, but I'm excited to get them processed. Got a whole bag here. If I'm gonna be doing all this candy for the kids in my life, I should probably get them to do some manual labor by unwrapping and cutting these up for me. I'm pretty happy with that experiment. I'm excited to try more candies. Maybe I'll try the Reese's Pieces or other types of chocolate. I think Milk Duds are supposed to do really good. But in the meantime, I wanted to show you some of the other stuff that came with my freeze dryer and some of the packaging that I bought, because I'm going to do up a little goodie bag for Georgia, and I'll probably bring some more candies in for my coworkers to try, and kids in my family. So what it came with was, these are called Mylar bags. So they're really big, and it only came with this one size. But this is for long-term food storage. So you would fill this up with your food, and then my kit came with a sealer. I think it's called an impulse sealer. So I actually can seal the end of this bag, and you can see that there's a perforated top. So I can just rip it open and then access my goodies. And inside that, if I'm using it for long-term food storage, it came with oxygen absorbers. So I'll throw oxygen absorbers in with the food, put it on my shelf, and I think some stuff can last like 25 years. I did not purchase my freeze dryer so that I can put food away for 25 years. I am, however, looking forward to having a lot of really handy like camping meals that don't need to be refrigerated. And what's going to be good about these bags, I think, is, let's say I put a meal in here. I think beef stroganoff, for example, is one that you can buy at the store. Maybe I'll try to recreate it. So I just put my freeze-dried food in here, seal it, and then all Jeff and I would have to do if we're out camping someday is add some boiling water straight to the bag, fold it up, and let it rehydrate. And then I think we can eat right out of these bags. So I think I'm gonna keep these Mylar bags for those types of meals. I don't think I need to use them up for candy, because I don't think these are gonna last a week, let alone 25 years. So it did come with these nice bags, and you can get them on Amazon. And then the oxygen absorbers to help maintain that shelf life. But what I got was a multi-pack of 3 different sized craft bags, but they're food safe craft bags. I like these bags because it has this little window so you can see what candy's in there. So this is the medium size. I got this little, I feel like this is gonna be like a good little sample snack size pack. Came with these larger bags. And so these also have that sealing top. So I'll pack these up. I'm really excited to try my sealer. So I'll pack these up and I'll be able to seal them. So once I gift these, someone will be able to rip the perforated edge, but then they can actually reseal them because it has like that Ziploc bag seal at the top. So I think now that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna pack up a couple of little goodie bags while I wait for my next batch. As I was loading the freeze dryer with all this candy, I was really antsy to try ice cream sandwiches because, ice cream sandwiches and pumpkin pie, because I've seen both of those do really well online. I filled a whole tray with pumpkin pie and ice cream sandwiches, and as I was loading everything into the freeze dryer, making sure I had the proper settings for candy, I realized that you shouldn't do ice cream and candy together because candy goes at a way higher temperature. I think the ice cream probably would have melted. So I ended up pulling the ice cream out, and I wasn't originally going to process these sour belts, so I just did a whole tray of these sour belts. So now I have the freeze dryer running with the ice cream sandwiches, and they suggest that you don't run fresh or non-frozen foods with frozen foods. So I've got a whole batch of frozen foods going in right now. I ended up doing a second tray of ice cream sandwiches. I had a couple leftover blueberry squares from just from over the holidays. I had a little sweets tray and we didn't eat through them all, so I thought that would be a fun experiment, as well as one tray of strawberries and mangoes that I just already had in my freezer. I also did an entire tray of frozen cubed pumpkin. If you've been following me for the last little while, you may have seen that I processed a ton of people's leftover pumpkins from their Halloween decorations. Now, these are like pumpkins that have been sitting on their porch, probably exposed to raccoons. I don't know what kind of state they're in, so they are not going to be for treats for me or any of my friends and family. Those are going to be for the dogs and the chickens. I think they're going to be a really healthy, delicious snack for them. It's really good for their gut health. It's a good dewormer or whatever. So anyway, I got one whole tray of pumpkins for treats for the critters. And then the last tray I did was some leeks that I harvested from my garden. What I ended up doing was chopping them up and just throwing them in the freezer, and I've just been pulling handfuls of them and adding them to recipes here and there. We just did a turkey tetrazzini with some leftover turkey and broth from Christmas dinner, and I was able to put a handful of leeks in that dish, which was delicious. But I'm thinking that freeze-dried leeks is going to be so handy. It's not going to take up as much freezer space, and I'll probably just do the same thing. Like, I'll throw a handful of those leeks into whatever it is that I'm cooking, pasta, or even soups, I think would be really good. And then the last thing was celery. We did the same thing. We had celery left over from our turkey dinner, so I just chopped it up really small and threw it in the freezer. And again, I just like to pull that out as needed, throw it into soups, throw it into stuffing, whatever I'm making. So I think it'll be just as handy to pull freeze-dried celery for those purposes. So that's what's in there now. I will say I didn't necessarily get my freeze dryer I definitely did not get my freeze dryer to be making treats and candies. I did it more so for preserving those goodies from my garden. I processed a ton of broth from the leftover turkey bones from Christmas, and I'm really excited to process all that liquid broth, powder it up, and I'll have my own bouillon powder with ingredients that I was able to control. Like, it's just roasted turkey bones, some celery, whatever seasonings that we put on the turkey, rather than a ton of salt, whatever preservatives, who knows what ingredients are even in the bouillon powder that you buy at the store. And all those turkey bones are just, they would have been scraps anyway, so I'm basically getting free food. Free bouillon powder. I'll be able to share that with my friends and family. And right now I do a lot of canning with broth. I've got tons of jars of broth on my shelf, so I'm really excited that I'll be able to turn that into powder, and instead of having 10 jars of broth, it'll probably all fit into one jar, and I'll just take a spoonful of the bouillon powder as a substitute for one jar of broth. So it's going to take up way less space on my pantry shelf, and I will have lots of jars left over to be able to can lots of other goodies or put away a bunch of freeze-dried treats. So I'll keep you posted on any other freeze-dried projects that I tackle, because I don't think I'm going to stop. I've got so many ideas. I'm so excited. So thank you for watching. Thank you, Georgia, for the recommendations on the candy, and I'll see you next time. Please let me know in the comments what you think I should freeze dry next.